to answer his call. There he goes. Hey.
Hey.
Let me add CavalierGuest. Because as soon as I tried, remember when I was like, I'm going to call you guys after we start, that way it's easier, you know? Remember that?
Yeah.
As soon as I clicked the button, Skype crashed. So it didn't work out. But we're getting you now. Everything's going to be okay.
Awesome.
Everything's going to be okay, Ryan. Okay?
That's good. That's good.
I think it's good. I think it's great.
Usually when people say everything's going to be okay, it means everything's not going to be okay.
There's nothing's on fire. Everything's fine. Welcome, CavalierGuest. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you guys doing?
Not bad. Just waiting for that cam of yours to load, and we'll get started. I was explaining a little bit about the show to anyone who would come in a little early. Ryan, while I work on making this picture appear, would you like to tell the folks a little bit about what we do?
Sure. So, Storm Legacy's Drafthouse is a Thursday night event where we typically have a guest who has selected some drafts from recent tournaments or games, and we go through them step by step. We kind of look at the drafting process, as we think it's one of the least understood parts of the game and something that's pretty interesting. And we really try to relate these pros or these guests' games and their thoughts to your own games and Hero League and help you become a better drafter. Now, for today's episode, I think we're doing something a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And we're pretty excited about that we're going to go through the maps and talk about kind of the best heroes and drafting strategies for each one.
Who are some of your favorite guests we've had? I'm not asking you to pick favorites, but we've had some good episodes.
We have had some good episodes. I enjoyed June.
Me too.
And Yuge.
Mm-hmm.
I think that those were two of the highlights. But what about you, Danny?
I thought Oddish was great. I thought she had a lot of interesting points to make. I also really liked June. He brought a unique. It was like you got to climb inside a real Korean's draft brain,
That's
right.
Right.
Like for a little while, which is awesome.
And I think having Crowan on right after qualifiers was great too.
Yeah. So I can't get your cam to show.
No,
Cavalier.
it keeps freezing. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. I mean, that's what's important. Let me try disconnecting you and re-inviting you. So that work?
Okay.
All right. So, yeah, tonight we're just going to be going over maps, and we're going to be trying to kind of remember and go over what we've learned from these awesome guests who are here to help the community and help you draft better, and what they've said about various maps. I have some thoughts, and of course you can't talk about drafting and maps without talking about the meta, so this is inadvertently also a meta podcast, I guess, in a way. It's the whole taco, it's got everything rolled up in there.
I believe the phrase is the whole enchilada.
No, it's a whole taco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll take your word from it since you're from the Southwest.
I am. I'm from New Mexico. I know the difference.
It's not the way we say it up here.
No, yeah. You're right. I don't know. CavalierGuest cam isn't working. We'll keep working on it, but did you wanna start, Cavalier, or did you want to try and fix this?
I'm just not sure why my cam's not working. It was...
Yeah, it was working like 5 minutes ago.
It was working like 5 minutes ago, which is strange.
Yeah.
And I assume it's probably on my end. I could try restarting Skype.
Yeah, go for it. Me and Ryan can talk.
We're good at that.
Yeah. Very good at that. Alright, I think he's working on that. Oh no. Okay. I thought I ruined everything, but we're alright.
So tell me, Danny, you're looking forward to Pat's here?
Oh yeah. I'm a Monday through Friday worker kind of guy, and so having these awesome tournaments every weekend, like I'm tired and old, and I just get to lay there and watch awesome HOTS, and yell at the draft because of this show. I'm like, no, what are you thinking? It's a lot of fun. What about you? You gonna watch it?
I am gonna try to check some out. Unfortunately, I have both work and other plans this weekend, so it's gonna be a little tougher than usual.
Other plans, just whatever it is, tell them there's something more important happening.
Yeah, what else
Well,
could be as important?
Yeah.
Well, I close on a house tomorrow, so
Oh, whatever.
that's kind of
Well,
a
that kind of matters a little bit.
yeah.
No,
That's
no.
Yeah, I don't
something
know what's
can
going
just be
on.
look
I don't know
at
what's
this
going on
up.
with my camera. It's just not loading.
It's just not loading.
Whatever.
But we
Whatever.
have your dulcet tones. You know, that's fine. And-
That's okay. I have the perfect voice for radio.
Yeah. All right.
Which is
So
also not how that saying goes.
no, as someone who works in radio, I'm glad you didn't say the actual joke because I hear it like 6 times a day. So like it's the joke. That joke's over. When at least for me. So it's okay. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. Usually what we do here is we ask some questions of our guests, just to get a look at their personality, you know. I feel like people involved in the community in this game don't get the chance to exhibit their personalities, and they have a lot of interesting ones. So, the tradition is that I ask you the biographical questions that I remember from Street Fighter 2.
Okay.
So, your name?
My name is Justin Foster.
Justin Foster. And your city that you fight to represent, your hometown.
I guess it's Sacramento.
Okay.
I live here now, so I'll say Sacramento.
All right, yeah, whatever you want to represent, you know, yeah. Let's see, what else? Fighting style,
Jiu-jitsu.
jiu-jitsu. Ooh,
Ooh.
Brazilian, Japanese,
Japanese.
Nice. Okay. Blood type.
Oh, pause.
He just knew right off the top of his head. That's so rare.
I'm in the Gallon Club.
Oh, okay.
It'd be weird if I donated like a gallon of my blood and didn't know what it was.
Well,
story.
you're the first person who knew. Like June knew because, like in Asian culture, that's like important. But other than him, like you were the first. So awesome job.
I beat the Asian. Awesome.
You did. You were faster.
That's the goal in esports.
You're
right?
faster. You're faster than June. Yeah. What else? Oh, what is your favorite skin in Heroes of the Storm?
Oh, that's a really tough question.
Mm-hmm. It says a lot about a person, though.
I'm gonna have to go with the Asmodunk skin just
Okay.
because my stream bought it for me.
Oh, nice. It's a great skin.
Yeah.
It's a terrific skin. One of my favorites. All right, awesome.
I like how it specifically spawned from the community. Like,
Yeah, that's also really
Yeah.
Cosmo Don't, like,
Yeah.
that's pretty
It's like Pandarians themselves spawned from the community, you know? Kind of similar. So, what map should we start with? I think I'm going to go in reverse release order, because that's how they are on the website. So, let's do this here. So we've talked to a lot of people about a lot of maps. Obviously, not every map gets played in tournaments all the time. But I think we've covered everything except for... Probably, we've even done Garden of Terror. Actually, I think we've done every map, which is cool. Sometimes the Battle.net page doesn't load. There it is. So, we're going to start talking about Towers of Doom. Towers of Doom, the most recent map until Brax's Holdout is released. What do you think of Brax's Holdout, by the way?
I've only played it a little bit on PTR. It seems like a combination of Haunted Mines and Dragonshire to a degree. It can go for a really, really long time. But it's interesting because it's the first 2-lane map where wave clear is the most important thing to have in your team comp.
Right, yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting dynamic in terms of drafting on it.
For sure. So, we could talk about that after, actually, if we have time. I was just curious about your initial thoughts on it. So, Towers of Doom. An interesting map, obviously a very unique map. No core damage directly from heroes or anything, or mercs or anything like that. What kind of, if you could summarize what's important on Towers of Doom, what would you say it is?
So when I talk about Towers of Doom a lot, what I like to say is it's like a Hearthstone game.
Okay.
It only matters if you're controlling the board. It doesn't matter how much health you have.
Right.
And Towers of Doom is the same way. It only matters if you're controlling the map. It doesn't matter how much health is actually left on your core until your core actually dies.
Right.
Like, until you actually lose the game.
You only need the last hit point. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you look at it that way, the most important thing on Towers of Doom is actually soak and lane pressure. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. There's actually, it's not a common EU strat, but there's a strat that's been used in professional tournaments in EU where people go Asmodan and Abathur.
Okay.
and heroes who have enough range to delay the altars, and they just constantly push in all the lanes, and they never fight. They just constantly push and delay altars, and eventually, because they have that global ability with the globes, with the generals, they just win the map.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
So it's a much deeper map, and I think it's a much more complicated map than people give it credit for when you're just trying to win the altars and treat it like a normal map, because it really isn't. Because you can lose a late game team fight on Towers of Doom and not lose the game, whereas if you lose a late game team fight on any other map, the game's over. You've just lost the game. It's possible to make comebacks on Towers of Doom that aren't possible on other maps, and it's possible to use strategies that focus entirely on macro way of playing the map that will win.
Yeah, that's very true. One interest when this map was released, the initial knee-jerk reaction by a lot of people was that it was less emphasis on pushing lanes and less emphasis on wave clear, because the towers, you could take them back. You could take your keeps back, so it wasn't a permanent death. Turns out now, with the way the map is played, it's the complete opposite. The other day in Quick Match, I got queued into a game with Tiger JK, I Dream, and June on my team, and I was like, all right, this will work, but they were like, just push with us, we're going to take a fort, and we're not going to leave. And I was like, really? Okay. And so we took a fort on bottom.
Bottom line.
Yeah, and we just kind of hung out there, and they just kept running into us and dying until the game was over. It was amazing. So... very unique map, and it definitely gave me some new perspective on how the map plays. So with that in mind, based around pushing lanes, obviously that's Sylvanas is great for that, and Soak, maps like or heroes like Aether and Lost Vikings. Are there any other heroes, or would you agree with those heroes, and what else do you think works on this map?
I would absolutely agree with those heroes. I would also add Tracer. It's Tracer's best map because of the amount of space around the altars and the amount of basically escape points. Makes it really easy for her to harass, which is really, really important when if you're going for a team comp that's trying to win the altars, which is a viable way of playing the map. Tracer does that extremely well.
Right.
And Kerrigan for a very similar reason, and then Zagara, just because she has the most lane pressure of any hero. If you leave her alone in a lane to go contest the altars, like any altar that you can trade, but Zagara gets a fort, that's a loss, right? So if Zagara only comes to the single altars and lets your team cap the other ones, you're in a really, really good shape. And then any hero with a global has slightly increased value. Mm-hmm. So Brightwing, Falstad, again Zagara because of Nidus.
Right.
I think this is actually statistically Zagara has the highest win rate on this map of any hero.
Right, she has a lot of strengths, and
yeah.
I wonder how that's going to change with her damage nerfs. I don't think it'll change a lot on a map like this.
I don't think it will. I think the value is in her ability to siege a lane very, very effectively, or even to retake buildings, and her damage nerfs aren't going to matter in that regard, at least.
Yeah,
she's one of the few true split pushers. I mean, I was listening to Grubby today, and somebody was talking to him about Sylvanas and how she was a split pusher, and he shut that person down right away. Because she's a team pusher, right? She's more effective.
You're right. She needs
team, Zagara seems to fit a pretty unique role, which is pretty interesting.
Sylvanas is a siege amplifier.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone else is doing a lot of damage to a building, then she shuts that building down. It's wonderful.
Right.
But pushing on your own is an entirely different dynamic. You need to be able to rapidly kill the buildings on your own. Post 10 or post 7 with Barb Shot, that is something Sylvanas can do, and then post 13 with Windrunner.
Right.
Her value in that regard goes up again. But before those talents, or if you don't take those talents, you just can't really ever push on your own as Sylvanas and have it be anywhere near as effective as even like a Gazlowe pushing. I mean, Robogaz is a split pusher.
Right.
That's true.
That's
true. So that's it's interesting. So Sylvanas, she doesn't have that immortal with her, or that Punisher, or Garden Terror, whatever. She doesn't have that big boss to enable. So maybe don't jump on the Sylvanas. Obviously, she's still really good on most maps, including this one. But maybe if you play one of those other true soakers, you might want to prioritize that over Sylvanas on this map. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The benefit of Sylvanas on Towers of Doom really is that if you win a team fight, it doesn't matter how low you are, you can immediately go push and get a fort.
Mm-hmm.
Or, post 12 minutes, they upgrade to keeps. And you can have that value from that point onward of having that location on the map. And then you can start to snowball the map, because you can always push it forward when you have a Sylvanas.
Right.
So you can just, if you get one fort, you can go get the next fort, and you go get the next fort, and you go get the next fort, and the enemy team is stuck in this loop of having to take them back.
Right. That's a bouncing effect we see, I think, in a lot of levels of play, just because it's so easy to stay ahead. It's kind of snowballing in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, there are always ways to combat. Do you also see a lot of poke comps? I know that these have been pretty popular, especially when you're talking about altars, denying those. What are your thoughts about those on this map?
I mean, you do see a lot of delay comps. We even saw one game with, I think it was Nova. Faye was playing Nova on this map, just to delay altars, and they had this combo where Tyrael would, go in, bait people into collapsing on him. He would sank, and then Precision Strike would come down on top of the sank, and suddenly the enemy team would be dead.
Right.
And so poke heroes are really valuable. Malfurion sometimes is drafted in EU just for the fact that with the range on his level 4, Alun's Grace, he can actually poke from his own base some of the altars. And Chromie, very, very similar logic.
Right.
Chromie's really popular on this map. It's actually statistically one of her lowest win rate maps, even in high MMR, but she's very popular on the map.
Right. The idea is there. Maybe the execution isn't quite there yet. That's Chromie in a nutshell, though.
Exactly.
Okay, so we talked about what's good on this map. Do you think there are any pitfalls heroes on this map that maybe heroes that if you take them, you're hurting your chances of winning this map?
I think it depends on what type of play you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a lot of strategies that can work on this map, and if you don't do the strategy together, you're not going to win the game. There was actually a Grandmaster game that I did a replay breakdown of a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. It's on my YouTube channel, where there was Vikings on a team in Hero League, and there was an Asmodan, and the Asmodan kept split pushing despite the fact that the Vikings were soaking all the lanes.
Right.
And they ended up losing the game because the Asmodan was out of position and not with the team. And normally, if you have Asmodan without Vikings on that map, Asmodan can split push with either the laser build or the new Q build and do an amazing amount of pressure and get buildings on his own and puts a lot of pressure on the map for the team. So I think, in general, the important thing is always to play the comp you have. Any given comp is going to lend itself better to certain strategies, and if you don't play to those strengths, you're not going to win the map.
Right. Okay.
So for some people in solo queue, Hero League, what are some tips you would give them? Trying to fit your hero pick into a comp and then playing with the team when tight communication isn't really possible.
My biggest recommendation, actually, for Hero League especially, is draft a solo laner, especially on maps like Towers of Doom where a 4-man rotation is possible. Draft one strong solo laner. There's a lot of good solo laners in the game. You have Thrall, you have Sonya, you have Zagara. Even one of MVP Black's favorite solo laners is actually Zeratul, because he can clear the wave and then blink out, so there's no possibility of him getting ganked, which means he's super, super safe as a solo laner. There's lots of good solo laners in the game. You're not hurting for options.
Right.
And then just rotate as 4. And all you have to do is rotate as 4, is have one hero that has wave clear. The tank usually just stays mounted and guards the rotation. So if the enemy team tries to get a gank on you as you're rotating, he just stops them, because the tanks have CC, they have disengage, they can save you. Mm-hmm. And your wave clear hero clears the wave, and everyone rotates, and your support's with you too. So you have that heal. It's just a 4-man rotation. You clear middle wave, you rotate down, you clear the bot wave, and you're literally just the tank is guiding the rotation, and everyone else just follows the tank.
Kind of like a Zul strategy on Blackheart's Bay a little bit.
Yeah, it's super simple to do, right?
Yeah. Well, if you have a team, it's not so simple to do in Hero League, but...
I will concede my record in Hero League is 50-50, getting people to do 4-man rotations.
Right,
I always talk to people about it, and even when I'm on comms, when I run educational scrims on Saturdays, sometimes it's hard to convince people to actually do the 4-man rotation. They're like, I've got to get this last minion, and they're not the wave clear hero, and they're the tank, and it's like, I got to clear the wave. I'm like, you're the tank!
Yeah.
Do you think your strategy advice there will change now with the incoming mount nerfs? To a little longer to move?
No, it won't. Actually, this fun fact, if you look at a lot of the maps, Blackheart's and Tomb are the two best examples. The time to mount and ride to the other lane versus the time to just walk without mounting is the same.
Oh, okay.
So the only benefit is that you get to move a little bit faster during, unless you get dismounted. But if you're just walking from lane to lane as a team, you might actually find a situation where it's not beneficial to mount and people will just walk.
Huh.
And the advice won't change because you're still able to get the soak. I actually tested that on PTR to make sure it was still true. And it is still possible to rotate between each and every single lane without missing any soak.
Oh, well, good to know. Okay, well, there's a lot of maps in this game, so I'm going to go to our next one here, which is the Infernal Shrines. One of my favorite maps, very popular map. A lot of fun to play. Very different from Towers of Doom as far as your objectives. Initial thoughts about Infernal Shrines.
Infernal Shrines is actually one of my favorite maps.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been ever since it came out. When it first came out, people thought it was really snowbally.
Yeah.
And that was actually never my experience.
Same here.
I would always make sure to draft a hero who could double soak. And I would make sure there was a hero in the draft that could double soak. And I would always tell that hero, go soak, while the team, win or lose, got the, either we defended the Punisher as 4, and that one person went and soaked, or we pushed with the Punisher as 4, and that one person went and soaked. And as a result, I was never on a team that was behind in experience, even if we were losing the objective. And that was what made it so snowbally, because people would defend as 5 and they would push as 5. And obviously in that scenario, the team that won the objective is going to be way ahead in experience.
Sure.
But it doesn't have to be that way.
So give us some examples of heroes that can double soak. Is it those solo laners like Thrall, Zagara, Azul? Or...
So double soaking is about wave clear.
Mm-hmm.
Solo laning is about sustain, the ability not to get pushed out of lane, because if you get pushed out of lane, you're by yourself. That means your team's missing that experience until you can hearth and come back.
Okay.
Wave clear, double soaking is completely about wave clear. I mean, technically, Lost Vikings double soak, but they don't do it by clearing the wave.
Right.
Him and Lost Vikings and Abathur are the only 2 exceptions.
Right. So Johanna
can double soak. Zul can double soak. Jaina can double soak. Murky can double soak.
Okay.
Kael'thas can double soak. I think I said Jaina already. Zeratul can actually double soak.
Mm-hmm.
Malfurion with Moonburn at level 1 can actually double soak. Fun fact. Arthas can double soak. Falstad post 7 with Boomerang can double soak. Lunara can double soak. Dahaka with Primal Aggression at level 1 can double soak. Illidan can double soak. Rhaegar with Lightning Bond can double. There's a long list of heroes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Basically, you need to be able to clear a wave in about 8 seconds in order to be a hero that's capable of double soaking.
Okay. So we got some questions from the chat real quick. First one is related to what we're talking about, even though it's a later question, so I'll ask that. Squared maybe came in before you explained this. Could you really quickly go over for him what double soaking means and what its advantage is?
What is double soaking? Double soaking is when one hero has sufficient wave clear to clear a wave, rotate to another lane, clear that wave, and get back before the next minion wave gets to that lane. So minions spawn every 30 seconds. It takes them between 12 and 18 seconds to get to their lane, depending on the size of the map. And you just have to have a wave clear ability that basically has a 15-second or lower cooldown. And you can clear, or you can be able to clear the wave in 8 seconds just through doing high single target damage.
Okay, gotcha.
So you clear the wave, you rotate the other lane. You clear the wave, you rotate the other lane. Zul's the best double soaker by far because the skeletons add so much extra pressure in addition to the wave clear. But there's lots of heroes who have sufficient wave clear to double soak a lane.
Okay. And the other question we had is a pretty common question, but I think it's worth addressing. Is if you have any tips for solo queuers?
Do I have any tips for solo queuers? Play the role you're really good at.
Okay.
I would say the worst played role on average is tanks. So I'd encourage you to read my Art of the Tank guide, a little bit of a self-plug.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But play the role you're good at. And I think that a lot of people don't realize the impact a good solo laner can have because it gets you so far ahead on so many maps just to have one lane completely being dominated.
Just having that security in a lane and knowing you're getting that soak is just invaluable to me. I love it. Yeah. Okay, so cool. Thank you for answering the questions, and I'll let you know if we get any more.
I am actually reading chat.
Oh, okay, you're in there. Cool. So Infernal Shrines. Obviously, Kerrigan, a very popular pick on this map. She can build her shield while killing the little skeleton friends. Are they skeletons? I think they're skeletons.
They are skeletons.
Yeah. And so she's very popular on this map. Also considered a very strong hero. So it makes sense. What other kind of heroes? Obviously, Double Soaker is something you emphasize on this map. What else would you draft early on this map?
So it's actually interesting. Infernal Shrines has a really cool dynamic about the draft, and you can break down heroes that are good on Infernal Shrines into 3 categories. One of those categories is just Sylvanas.
Mm-hmm. Right. She is a category unto herself.
And the other 2 categories are heroes that can soak and heroes that I like to refer to them as shrine babysitters. They're heroes that sustain off the shrine or do damage the shrine so rapidly that they can just win the shrine by themselves if they're left alone on it for any period of time.
Okay. Gotcha.
So that's why Kerrigan is actually so ridiculous on this map, because with the combination of Siphoning Impact plus Clean Kill, Kerrigan can actually soul the shrine faster than most heroes can, faster than most teams could do it if they were all there on top of it.
You just mash that Q button.
Yeah, it's like 1 auto attack pre-level 4, and then once you have the Clean Kill set up, it's 1 auto attack plus 1 Q kills the minion. And because of the grace period in the reset window, you can just Q to a minion, auto attack them, and they're guaranteed to reset, and then you just keep queuing.
Yep, it's a lot of fun.
Sonya is another really strong example, especially after the updates to her whirlwind talents that allowed they cool it down. They reduced the cooldown by 1 second now, so Sonya can just spin to win on the shrine constantly. We've got, this is one of the few maps we've seen Diablo drafted in professional play pretty much ever.
Right.
And a big part of that is his Fire Devil talent at level 1 that essentially gives him a version of Burning Rage at level 4, plus then the Return at level 13.
I think Fire Devil's level 4, isn't it?
Yeah, but the Return at level 13.
Oh, the Return at 13 parts down. Okay. Yeah.
But it basically gives him a level 13 talent at level 4 that's specifically good on this map, which is insane. It's just a crazy. And then, so you think about those heroes. You have Sylvanas, because if you win the objective, she doubles the value of the objective, which is huge.
Yeah.
But you could, for instance, if the enemy team drafts Kerrigan, you could draft Zool and then not contest the shrines. As long as the enemy team doesn't have Sylvanas, that's okay, because Zool will keep you ahead in soak. The first Punisher, on average, for most people, I think they know it gets a wall. A Zool that's left alone for more than like a minute and a half will actually get 2 walls.
Okay.
So that's a good trade.
Yeah.
all your team has to do is not die and delay. Like, they can stay on the edge, steal the occasional skeleton, and you'll actually end up ahead in experience and ahead in structures.
Right.
As long as the enemy team doesn't have Sylvanas. If they have Sylvanas, you always have to contest. So there's this dynamic of, if you have Sylvanas, you always have to you always have to contest the shrine. If the enemy team doesn't have Sylvanas and they have superior shrine control, you can actually just pick soak heroes, not contest the shrine, and push the lanes.
We lost Ryan. Man down. That's all right. I'll get him back. So then what you're saying is, which leads into my next question, on Infernal Shrines, obviously this depends on what your teammates want to play and whatnot, but if you have first ban and you're not going to play Sylvanas, you should probably ban Sylvanas.
Yes. Sylvanas completely changes the dynamic of the map to make everything about the shrines win or lose. So if you lose the shrine and the enemy team has a Sylvanas, you should lose the game. And if you win the shrine, and you have to win the shrine in order to not let the Sylvanas get enough value. So if you're not going to play Sylvanas, no one on your team wants to play Sylvanas, you definitely should ban her. She's absolutely a first ban priority.
Okay. Any others high priority bans on this map?
If you're drafting for a comp that wants to win the shrine, and you're not going to take Kerrigan or Sonya, they are a high priority. If you're drafting for a comp that wants to win the shrines, and you already have high priority heroes for that, like Kerrigan, then you should ban the soak heroes in order to deny that option. So Lost Vikings, Zool, Abathur, Falstad, Brightwing, because they have globals, which allows them to soak a little bit better.
Who is your favorite tank on this map?
Personally, my favorite tank on this map is Tyrael, just because he enables Kerrigan so incredibly well. Also,
makes
Arthas.
Sense. Okay, Arthas,
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, it's just the frozen waste and the clearing the objective, or
he does 2 things. One of them is that the size of his root is exactly the size of Kerrigan's stun. So And his major weakness as a tank is he lacks initiation. So you can actually have Kerrigan initiate for him, and then he can follow up with the root, and then he stands on top of them, and then they can't go anywhere.
Okay.
Which is a really good combination.
I actually didn't know that about his root there. That's cool. Of the Kerrigan stun.
Yeah, and then he gives you another Shrine Babysitter with Frozen Tempest because it'll automatically attract everything to him as he just walks around, zoning the shrine. Just a really, really cool synergy. And then if you're the tank, you can often afford to go, if you have a strong support, you can often afford to go Syndragosa, which gives you Sylvanas on a heroic cooldown.
Right. So, interesting question here from Adamosaur, which I actually kind of am curious about your thoughts on. Isn't Syl very strong on any map that has similar push mechanics? Which I would say yes, but is there any map where it's maybe less so?
There's variance. So on and we'll get to the map eventually, but on Battlefield of Eternity, which has the strongest pushing objective in the game.
Right.
Sylvanas multiplies the value of a pushing objective. So if a pushing objective is stronger, she gets stronger.
Okay. Yeah. Of course.
On Battlefield of Eternity, so the Punisher is the second strongest pushing objective in the entire game.
Really?
Which, yeah, if you look at the stats, it's the second strongest.
But I thought he tried to punch heroes.
He does. That actually makes him better.
Yeah, actually, if you kill a hero, that's great for a push. That's a good point.
You have stun chains that you can combo off of him. You have people. Kerrigan. One of the reasons Kerrigan's strong on this map that doesn't get talked about very often is if you win the objective, which you should because you have a Kerrigan, you can actually fish through the wall off of the Punisher stun. Once the Punisher jumps the wall, Kerrigan can combo off of that and pull them over to near the gate, and then your team can still kill them because they have vision from the Punisher.
Yeah.
It's called fishing. In the pro scene.
I mean, that's an appropriate name for sure.
But yeah, so Sylvanas will. Yeah, so the Punisher is the second strongest pushing objective, and Tomb of the Spider Queen, it pushes all three lanes, right? The spiders do, but they're weaker, and
are
Sylvanas gets less.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I was curious if they're, since you seem to know a lot of the numbers, are they 1/3 weaker, or are they like 1/3 the strength of a Battlefield of Eternity?
Each of the Spider Queens, because they slowly lose health over time, end up doing about 1/3 of the average damage of a Punisher but they do it in every single lane. So Sylvanas is not as good on those maps.
Right, because she can only be one place. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, that's an interesting insight. I did want to address. So this is important because I think a lot of people want to play Sylvanas. I think a lot of people understand the theory of why she's good on so many maps. But Danyika86 asks, how do you play Sylvanas on the maps with the objective or boss or split push? And I think we've addressed that, but we can go over it again. The idea is to enhance the push objective by being there with the push objective and enabling it to do a ton of damage. Battlefield of Eternity, for example, you can get the first Immortal, and with any other comp, you might get a wall. With Sylvanas, you can get the keep wall. Like if it goes right, you can get all the way to the keep wall. Maybe even the keep. Hell, who knows? I
had a game yesterday on PTR and stream where we had Sylvanas on Shrines and we got a keep with the first Punisher.
Right, exactly. So you got to definitely push with the objective to answer your question. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sylva's again she's a siege magnifier. So you always want to be pushing with something. You never want to be pushing alone as Sylvanas. You always want to, even if it's just your team. We see this in the Chinese meta all the time. They'll draft Sylvanas on bigger maps like Cursed Hollow and Sky Temple, and they'll just do a 3-1-1 in their lanes, and they'll just push as hard as they can while supporting the Sylvanas. But they never have a solo pushing Sylvanas. That's not a thing at a high level of play.
Right. Yeah, that's just, split pushing is not like it is in other MOBAs. But that brings me to an interesting point, which I think is highlights an interesting dichotomy between pro play and Hero League play. All the pros that we've asked and interviewed, and it's pretty obvious, but we asked them, do you draft more towards the map, or do you draft more to build a comp that you like? Obviously the map's a factor in it, but and universally they're like, you got to build your comp. Is that different in Hero League? Do you want to... Because in Hero League drafts, it's so people emphasize very heavily taking assassins early, We got to get Li Ming or whatever. Would you say it's maybe a little more feasible to draft really strong heroes specific to the map early in Hero League?
You deleted my link.
Oh, sorry, man. Only
It's
mods can link, man. You don't have the power. I can send it. That's no problem.
So, what I would say, and I think that most pros would agree with me, even if they didn't put it this way when you ask them, which is that you pick a hero that's strong on the map, and then you pick heroes that are good with that hero.
Build around it, right?
Right. So you can always do that. The question in Hero League is when someone first picks a hero that's not good on the map, do I then pick a hero that's good on the map even if it doesn't synergize with what they picked, or do I pick something that's good with that hero even though the hero's not good on the map?
Right.
And I think a lot of it's going to come down to how comfortable you feel on those heroes and what wins the map. So, for instance, on Blackheart's Bay, and we're getting off Infernal Shrines for a second, guys. On Blackheart's Bay, jungling is really important. The ability to have one hero who can just walk around and constantly get camps. As long as they can sneak a turn in now and then and are careful not to lose their coins, they'll win the map for you as long as all you're doing is soaking lanes. It's not a very team fight centric map, so that's a map where you can pick a hero who's good at a thing, jungling, and sort of carry your team to a win without having to synergize with your comp. Whereas if you're on a team fight oriented map like Cursed Hollow, where tributes are really, really critical in order to carry the game overall, then you need to synergize with your team, even if they picked a hero that's not necessarily very strong on the map.
Yeah, good answer. Okay. So moving on to Battlefield of Eternity, a similar map in a lot of ways. What differences in who you want to prioritize in this map are there between this and Infernal Shrines?
So this is actually really good. This is a really good segue, shall we say, because Infernal Shrines, in a real sense, is a lot about wave clear. It's about having area of effect abilities, and Battlefield of Eternity is almost entirely about single target damage.
Right.
Because you either need to win and this is one of those things again. You can draft to win the team fight and then win the objective, but it's easier by far to draft to win the objective on Battlefield of Eternity and just always race the Immortals.
Right. Okay, so that's a key difference for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why Greymane considered so strong on this map, right?
Yes, this is 100% why Greymane is considered so strong on this map, because Greymane in general is considered a reasonably strong hero, but he has the second highest damage on the Immortal of any hero in the entire game.
Right. Yeah, and I'm a big old geeky Greymane fan, and I still think he's great and everything, but when I got this map, every time I get this map, and I'll still do it, I feel like Greymane is just a must-have on this map if you can get him and you can play him. His value is very high on this map. For a long time, it was a lot of people liked Tyrande because you could weaken the Immortal, which of course is still true. But Greymane doesn't even really need it. It helps, but so Greymane, if you can play him on this map, do it. If you can't, maybe try and ban him out. What other kinds of things are high priority on this map?
Sylvanas.
Sure.
Again, just because. Also, and Sylvanas is doubly so because with Barb Shot, especially with Windrunner at 13, she not only helps you win the race, which is critical, but she also doubles the value. So if you can win the race even once with Sylvanas, you'll end up, ahead. It's very, very valuable. I actually like Johanna on this map because a lot of the heroes you're drafting end up being really poor at wave clear.
Right.
Because their single target damage is high, but their area of effect damage is low. And Johanna is really good at delaying the Immortal race because she can just walk over, blind the enemy team for 1.5 seconds, and suddenly they're just not doing any damage to the Immortal for 1.5 seconds, which is huge. And she can clear the camps if there's ever a delay in the fight. She can, she has Night Take Spawn. This won't be true actually after the patch.
Right.
But she can rapidly go and clear the waves, which means that if you're in an unfavorable position push-wise, and you're trying to poke and delay, she doesn't really offer anything in that regard, but she can go rapidly clear the lanes for you.
Yeah, more soak is never going to hurt you, unless it's soaking until your team loses, So, okay.
For Diankia in chat, the answer is the Butcher. The Butcher actually does more damage to the Immortal than any other hero.
Hmm.
And that will be even more true post-patch.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and you know what? I never really thought about that, but because the Butcher is he's such a vulnerable hero. And he's no less vulnerable now, but his damage is even higher. So that gamble might suddenly be worth it,
Yes.
which is which is cool. That I love that that's happening. Um, so yeah, what kind of heroes are there? Any heroes who maybe aren't effective on a map like Battlefield of Eternity? Like, would you take a hero like Kael'thas on this map?
No, actually, I wouldn't. Kael'thas is really bad at racing the Immortal. He's not as bad as Jaina, who's
Right.
all of her damage is tied up in her combo, which has a very long cooldown.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely would not prefer any mage but Li Ming on this map. Li Ming
Sure.
actually has very high Immortal damage.
Take Seeker, yeah.
Well, she even has if you take Aetherwalker Calamity,
Oh, okay.
is actually the highest she's in the top 5
Oh, wow.
for racing the Immortal with Aetherwalker Calamity. We see it in the Chinese meta all the time. They really like it on this map.
I would have just assumed it was Seeker, but that's good to know. Yeah.
Well, Seeker adds an extra 120 plus damage on one ability, but Calamity adds 300 plus damage on a 3-second ability.
That's true. That's very true.
With Aetherwalker. So
yeah.
Fair
point.
Tannis with Amateur Opponent helps race the Immortal, and so it's one of those maps, and he actually the Global Blind can actually help you win the race.
Oh yeah.
As well. Zeratul actually has reasonable damage on the Immortal, but he can also VP the enemy Immortal, so they can't DPS it.
if you really need that delay, yeah.
Which is another thing that can guarantee. This map, this is the strongest objective of any map in the entire game, and it gets stronger the more health it has. Actually, if you I think a lot of people don't know this mechanic. The amount of shields the Immortal has remaining are the shields it has or the amount of health the Immortal has remaining are equal to the shields it has when it first starts pushing your lane. And as long as it has shields, it is a ranged hero.
Yeah.
Instead of a melee one, which means it's harder for the enemy team to DPS it down. And every time it uses its area of effect ability, it loses a little bit of its shield. So if you win the race by a little bit, it'll be relatively easy to deal with the Immortal. But if you win the race by a lot, it's very difficult to kill the Immortal, and you're pretty much guaranteed to get more value out of it.
It's a very unique map in that regard, and the better you are at the objective, the stronger the objective is. Even if you 40-0 Infernal Shrines or whatever, it's still the same Punisher that crawls out of the portal, It's no different. Whereas this, you can really, really take an advantage, exploit an advantage of the objective and have a much stronger push. So it's one of my favorite maps. I the more I play it, the more I think it's my favorite map. I just think it's a lot of fun. I like the decisions involved in playing this map. So the map released before Battlefield of Eternity was Tomb of the Spider Queen, generally regarded as a wave clear map.
Yes. We're going back and forth here.
Yeah. So are there different wave clear heroes you would take on this map that you might take higher here than you would on Infernal Shrines?
Absolutely. I don't know about higher, because if I was going for a wave clear strategy on Tomb, I would still want Zool.
Right.
But Tomb of the Spider Queen is far and away Zool's best map. Because the objective is in lane, and the objective is about pushing. And when you're doing a strong rotation, which Zool enables really, really well, vision matters. So how far your wave is pushed out
Skeletons,
is what determines how safe your rotation is. So by having those skeletons constantly pushing out the wave and forcing the enemy team to be slower on the rotation than you, because if they clear the wave first and then you come and clear the wave, the skeletons push and use up ammo. If they let you clear the wave and then clear your skeletons, that means they're automatically behind in the rotation, which makes them vulnerable to getting their rotation broken and either missing soak or letting the enemy team get a pick on them.
Right.
So it's just amazing to have that vision from Zool.
Right. Johanna, also a very popular hero on this map. Do you think she's a little overvalued on this map?
I don't know if Johanna's overvalued on the map. I do think that having a tank be your wave clear is always a little bit risky, because again, vision in Heroes of the Storm is so limited. Normally it's the tank's job to check bushes, to guard the rotation, to make sure that nothing happens.
Right.
So it's really important that your tank can do that. And if Johanna condemns a wave and then starts being a mobile ward, well, condemns on cooldown, she doesn't have it, that's fine. But I see a lot of Johanna players just constantly DPS the wave and try and clear it and then rotate, and they're not actually defending their team. And as a result, they don't actually end up ahead in the rotation, even though in theory their wave clear is better. Just because your team has to rotate safely because you're not being protected by your tank.
Right.
So I think Johanna is very valuable in this map when played very well, but I think a lot of people don't play her well enough to justify picking her on the map.
Right, that makes sense. Sorry, I was messing with your picture. So that brings up another point here, which I was going to actually emphasize tonight. Sylvanas, very strong on a broad number of maps. We haven't gotten to the big maps yet, larger maps tend to be a little older. But another thing that's very prevalent on a lot of maps is global presence. Do you think things like Sylvanas and global presence are too prevalent on the maps, and do they hinder future map design? Is that a concern in your mind?
That's an interesting question. So there's 7 globals in the game right now. 3 of them are base abilities. 4 of them are heroics.
Mm-hmm.
I think with the mount speed change, heroics are going to be... I think heroics are fine now, overall. With the mount speed change, heroics are going to be stronger. I think that might push them over the edge into being a little bit too strong. And we might see some nerfs to them in the next major patch.
Okay.
I haven't tested it enough to be 100% certain, because I have spent a lot of my time on PTR playing Braxis.
Right.
And I don't know. I think they'll probably increase the cooldown. That'll be the first thing they'll try, if it is an issue. But yeah, definitely bigger maps lead to globals being incredibly more valuable. And there's probably some design decisions that Blizzard can make for a map to make that not an issue. Like, maybe if the soak and the objective was all in one place somehow, and then if you went further and further away from it, you could get like some sort of benefit on the map, but it wasn't directly related to experience. I don't know. Right.
It's a tough question. It's something I've been thinking about all day, actually. Is you don't want a hero like that. That kind of goes against Blizzard's stated goals for the game state, which are we want obviously balance. We don't want the same build being taken on every map with this hero with X hero, and I doubt part of the goal is, we have a bunch of maps with big monsters that push, and so Sylvanas is just great on every map, or Falstad's just great on every map where it's a little larger. It's like, from a design standpoint, I wouldn't want to be like, I can't make a big map because then Falstad's going to be the best, So either something has to change inherently about map mechanics. Maybe there can be map mechanics that hinder things like that. Or they've been big on reworking older things lately, right? Like they're changing imposing presence. They're making sure every talent, all the generic talents, are being replaced with unique ones. They're doing sweeping changes to bribe. So maybe they can do things like, we're reworking how global works across the board, And I think it would be healthy for the game to maybe take a look at things like Sylvanas's PvE skills and global presence, because I think it can give us more awesome maps, basically, and less Sylvanas. So that's just and you don't see Sylvanas on the highest level of play as much as you see it in BattleNet, but she's very, very prevalent there.
I think it's a regional thing. In China, we see Sylvanas either picture banned 100% of the time.
Oh, really?
On a number of maps. Yeah, Chinese actually have a strategy they love, which is any map where structures matter because the objective damages them directly. Blackheart's Bay and Sky Temple are the big two.
Right.
They just pick Sylvanas and 3-1-1 the entire game.
Okay.
And they get so far ahead. If they get even a little bit ahead in structures, trading the objective constantly means that they end up ahead, and eventually they just win the game. And there's nothing you can do about it unless you can beat them at a fight and take both of like the temples on Sky Temple.
Right. Oh, I've actually never seen that, but that sounds pretty good. um, so yeah, this is kind of my tangent there. I would like to see maybe them go back and look at those kind of older global, or not global, but overarching mechanics.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, anything else you think people should keep in mind when thinking about Tomb of the Spider Queen, as far as drafting goes?
Not as far as drafting goes. Again, it's one of those maps where if you have a strong solo laner and you can convince your team to do a strong 4-man rotation, as long as you draft it for wave clear, you're going to win.
Okay.
If the enemy team drafts better wave clear than you do, then you have to go for a pick comp because you're never going to win the wave clear war.
Right.
So you have to be able to kill their heroes that have wave clear.
So give us an example of a pick comp.
Kerrigan Tyrant.
Okay. That, I mean, sure.
Right there.
Yeah.
Just any sort of CC lockdown. Kerrigan's really good because her initiation and her ability to double jump from the vents. Because as soon as the enemy team comes to clear the wave, your wave is also there and it gets a little bit low. Which means that no matter how, even if they're a ranged wave clear hero, you can jump to their wave and then jump to them off of the reset from Ravage.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And get them, which means that you can always engage with Kerrigan when the wave's there, which is when the enemy team is going to be there.
Right.
And then you just kill the wave clear, and then they can't clear the wave faster than you because they're dead.
Yeah, that's true. That's one way to stop wave clear, for sure. Sorry, let me see if I can... Ryan, back in this call, he's been working on his computer, but he's still not on Skype. Okay, moving on to a map, a larger map, a very tall map, a map near and dear to my heart because my name is Sahara and it's full of pyramids and sand. Sky Temple. What bell rings in your head as soon as you see Sky Temple as far as drafting heroes?
Li Ming.
Li Ming. Interesting. Okay, tell us about Li Ming.
So there's a lot of open space on the map and a lot of knowledge of where people are going to be before they are there. So when you have that combination of things, Li Ming is just incredibly good at poking the objective. She doesn't have to commit. The most dangerous place to fight on this map is actually the bottom temple because the bushes go all the way across the opening. You don't necessarily know who's in there. And if you go in, you're committed to going in. There's no real getting back out for most heroes. And Li Ming doesn't ever have to go in. She can be 100% effective and never have to go into the bottom temple.
So that's why you prioritize Li Ming here over Battlefield, because Battlefield Eternity obviously has a lot of open space.
Yes.
Okay.
It's just the amount of safety. And also, experience matters on every single map, just by a huge amount. The big guy on each temple who drops a regen globe actually gives you experience when you kill him. And it's based on last hit, not based on who controls the temple.
Oh, really?
So a good Li Ming player will always be able to last hit. What you do is you use your Q to constantly get vision to check the health of where it is, and then as soon as it gets low, you W it, and you're going to get it, even if the enemy team controls the temple. So every time you're trading temples, you're actually getting ahead in experience if Li Ming's doing this correctly.
Wow. This guy's CavalierGuest is a font of knowledge. He knows all the little tricks. I played a lot of this game, and there's a lot of things happening from CavalierGuest that I'm like, I did not know that. So that's really cool. Yeah. I mean, I knew they gave experience. I didn't know. I mean, obviously, of course it's last hit. That's how getting experience works. But I guess I just never thought about it, you know? Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So Li Ming is your number one draft pick on Sky Temple.
Personally, for me,
sure.
Just because you can do clever things like that all game long, and that will lead to just incremental advantages that will slowly win you the game.
Right.
Which is what it is. Sky Temple is an incremental map because literally every structure matters because of the way the objective works.
That is very true. What other heroes are good on Sky Temple that you should, maybe if you're good at that hero, you should maybe bust them out on Sky Temple?
Lost Vikings.
Okay.
We actually see Misfits prioritize Lost Vikings on Sky Temple all the time. And again, it's just the nature of the objective. You can trade the objective every single time, and if you end up ahead in soak, then you're in a really, really good shape. Also, Lost Vikings with the merc pressure and everything they can do in that regard is just so hard to deal with, and it's so hard to rotate to kill them if you're denied globals in the draft. One of the reasons they either take your ban fall set pretty much every single time. That's another lane where having a solo lane is a strong solo lane is really important. So obviously Zagara is really high up there.
Right.
And actually, I really like Leoric on this map
So do I.
because of the open spaces. It makes having something like Entomb even more valuable than it would be otherwise. And Tassadar with Force Wall is very similar.
Right, right. You can controlling those open spaces with things like that can be really devastating. Yeah, uh, splitting a team, especially with Force Wall, it can be really brutal. On this map in particular, Sky Temple. I wanted to ask. Oh, that's right. So, is Sylvanas a good hero on Sky Temple?
And we were just talking about this in the Chinese meta.
Yeah.
The Chinese actually love Sylvanas on Sky Temple. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think I've seen a single draft in Gold League where Sylvanas was not either picked or banned.
Mm-hmm.
So for some regions, Sylvanas is a huge priority. But and again, they're looking at the map. They're looking at a macro strategy for the map. We're going to get
Right.
ahead in structures by having really good push, which Sylvanas enables really well. We're going to protect the Sylvanas, and that Sylvanas is eventually that small structure lead that having a Sylvanas enables you to get
Mm-hmm.
is eventually going to slowly win us the game because we're just going to trade temples every single time because Sylvanas has slightly weaker team fight potential than other heroes you could draft in that slot.
Right.
But eventually, we'll just win the game.
Right. So it's a different style of Sylvanas than she's normally played on monster maps. I don't know what to call them. Big push guide maps.
Yes.
So the question earlier about should I split push with Sylvanas? Yes, on Sky Temple. It's pretty good. Obviously, you need to show up for some things, but it's better on this map. Is that yeah? Okay.
Yeah, every point of structure damage is one less shot you need from a temple to win the game.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good way to look at it. Yeah. Okay. So that's Sky Temple. I did have one more question about Sky Temple. Kael'thas obviously is not the big blonde elf kid on the block anymore. He's not the king of the meta anymore, but he's still a strong hero. He does a lot of AoE damage. This was always considered a weak map for Kael'thas, and I always thought it was because he lacked movement and ability to move around the map. Do you think that's... Would you take Kael'thas on Sky Temple? Would you take Kael'thas anywhere nowadays?
I mean, the benefits of Kael'thas's Flame Strike build are pretty notable, especially the percent damage. But you have to guarantee you're going to hit 2 targets with every single Flame Strike.
Right.
In order to get a lot of value out of that, which means that they need to be in chokes, basically. So on maps that have a lot of forced grouping because of choke points, Cursed Hollow is a good example, Infernal Shrines, which is a wave clear-centric map. Even Tomb of the Spider Queen, when you're fighting around the turn-in or around boss, frequently people end up in those little tiny chokes. And if you have like a Tyrael with Holy Ground or a Tassadar with Force Wall or even an ETC with a Mosh Pit, that synergy gets magnified. But
Right.
on a big, wide open map like Towers of Doom or Sky Temple,
Mhm.
I would not prioritize Kael'thas ever.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. All right. So, do you remember what map came out before Sky Temple? Pop quiz.
Let's see.
Don't peek at the stream.
I think so. I think it was Terror, right?
Yeah, it's Garden of Terror, which a much derided map. Not everyone's favorite map. Certainly not my favorite map.
It's actually the only map that I think should be removed from the game.
Yeah, I think it needs a little work. Yeah.
I always like to say it's a worse version of Dragonshire.
It kind of is, right? Like, it's a lot of their battlegrounds are incredibly compelling. Especially, God, Brax's holdout. They're getting better and better. There's something about the way they reworked Garden of Terror a little bit, and even before that, where I feel like I'm not having fun. I don't know what it is, but a lot of teams. I don't want to say a lot of teams. Some teams have brought this map back with certain strategies on this map. It's a little bit of a difficult map to pinpoint what works, right? It's not as clear cut as a lot of maps. It's like, oh yeah, you get the immortal, you push with it. What sort of things are important on Garden of Terror?
Actually, outside of the game, like outside of thinking about the game in terms of the heroes, I think the most important thing on Garden of Terror is to have one person who can drive the terror competently.
Okay.
Because
Interesting.
the terror participating in team fights when it needs to participate in team fights, the terror pushing when it needs to push, the terror just outright ending the game in the late game if it can just go end the game. I've seen so many people misuse the terror.
Yes.
And the terror is just incredibly powerful. It's like if you're fighting a 5v5 but your team has a terror, it's like a 7v5.
Right.
It's just such a huge advantage. And the pot, it doesn't matter if you're fighting under buildings because you basically have Sylvanas on a 20-second cooldown.
Yep.
Right. It's just having someone who understands the dynamics of how the terror can impact team fights is actually the most important thing.
Okay, and so tell us, how is the terror properly used?
And this is a complicated question because
Right.
it can vary. If you're behind in structures and both teams have a terror up, you actually need to use the terror defensively, and you're looking for picks. You're looking to kill the enemy team so that their terror will get less value.
Okay.
If you have a terror and the enemy team doesn't, you should always push with it, but you should also prioritize pushing your wave up over directly doing damage to the structure. So if you're walking by a minion wave, make sure you use that swipe to kill it because it's an instant shot.
Yeah, it kills them all right away. Yeah.
And if the enemy team comes and your team's not pushing with you to defend the terror, just run around because your team's obviously somewhere on the map doing something else, and just constantly clear the waves.
Mm-hmm.
You can clear the waves faster than they do. You'll end up with building pressure, especially if they're just chasing you.
Right. So it's better to just use the Garden Tear to kind of multi-soak and clear waves than it is to just push and die with it.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's an important idea to get across for sure.
Yeah, ideally, and this is true of the Dragon Knight, it's true of the Terror, both. The health should go to 0 as the timer goes to 0.
Right. That's
Right?
maximum
you want to get
efficiency.
the maximum efficiency out of every single Terror. You don't just want to throw it away for free.
Right. Right. It's hard to do sometimes. I mean, they will chase you down,
Yeah, it's very difficult, but
Yeah.
that's why it's important to have a really good Terror pilot who understands how to make those decisions.
Yeah. I forget his name. I should put an ad out in the classifieds like, I miss you, come back to me. I had this great Lost Vikings player once who was just amazing with the Garden Tear while controlling the Vikings, and it's just a beautiful thing. It just made me so happy inside, I couldn't do that. And I came from StarCraft, and I was pretty decent at StarCraft, but I don't think I could do that.
I actually always play Vikings on this map if the draft allows for it.
Yeah, so maybe it was you, Cavalier. Maybe it was you that I was looking for. Yeah. Okay. Anything else about Garden of Terror? High priority heroes that don't work so well.
Garden of Terror is a little tiny bit too big to do a 4-man rotation unless you're doing it really, really crisply. So heroes that have their own individual wave clear is very valuable. Percent damage heroes apply to the Terror. So Tychus is actually a really high priority on this map.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because it allows you to defend the Terror very efficiently, as do you can even if you take Karazim and take 7-sided strike, you can chunk the Terror for half its health.
Right.
With your heroic, that means every objective you're killing it by half instantly. And imagine if you could kill a Punisher by half for one of your heroics. That's a trade most people would take.
That's worth, yeah, for sure.
So Leoric, Karazim, and Tychus would be 3 of the I think underrated picks on this map that I'd highly encourage people to
so yeah, tank buster types
play around with, and obviously Vikings.
Right.
But my biggest tip is actually go for the small camps first.
Right.
There are 180 seeds per night phase. And there are 15 seeds per small camp. And if you get the small camps first, you can decide if you want to contest the big terror or just trade them for whatever's better for your comp. If you have like a Lost Vikings comp, it's better to contest because that gives you a delay, which allows the Vikings to soak for longer. Whereas if you're against the Lost Vikings comp, you're like, no, we just want to trade and go back to soaking. We don't want to let you get this lead.
Yeah.
So it's a really big deal to make sure that you efficiently gather the seeds when you need to. And fun fact, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, when there's enough seeds left to get a terror for that night phase, your flower is open.
Yes.
And if there's not enough seeds left, your flower is closed.
Okay, see, I know these things about the older maps. All right. I knew all the hot tips, but that's good for people to know. Yeah, it's a very easy indicator. Like, oh, the flower's open, we can still get a terror. Like, it's very simple. I would like more graphical indicators like that on map stuff. I think that'd be a very cool thing to have. Let's see. All right. We need to move along a little bit. We're kind of still got a lot of maps to go. Well, not a ton. Okay, so Blackheart's Bay, PvE Wonderland.
It really is, though.
Yeah, it's the second least. I guess Blizzard just kind of had maybe not a perfect streak with a couple maps in a row there. Although Blackheart's Bay was a launch map. Never mind. So one of the less popular maps. My least favorite map.
But Zool.
But Zool, yes. Hello, Ryan. Welcome back.
Thank you. Nothing like some Windows 10 memory leaks to really pick up your day.
Yeah, no, it makes me feel good in my heart. My heart smiles.
We'll see if I fixed it or not.
Yeah. Well, when you're ready to get that webcam going,
It just says group videos unavailable. I don't know what to tell you.
Skype is the worst program ever made. And
There it goes. Maybe it
It
works.
is.
Yeah,
There it
it's
goes.
the worst. Hey, there's Ryan.
See
There
if my
it is.
camera's working yet. No,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not freezing. Yeah, it froze.
Ah, well, at least you tried. All right, so we're on Blackheart's Bay, Ryan, as you know.
Oh, my favorite.
Everybody's favorite. Okay, so you're on Blackheart's Bay. You're in Hero League. What kind of heroes are you looking at, Cavalier-Guest?
Again, strong solo laner. There's
Strong
so many
solo.
maps where you
Yeah.
just need a strong solo laner.
Yeah.
It's not my fault.
And then, it's not a bad thing either. I mean, other games have defined roles, and maybe that's just one of HOTS's defined roles, And
It is. It is to a large degree.
Seems to be also true of global mobility, right? I mean, there's only a few maps where that isn't one of the most paramount considerations.
You missed our talk about if that. Let me ask you, Ryan. Let's make it brief. Do you think things like global mobility need to be looked at as far as the two subjects were global presence and Sylvanas being good on like 90% of the maps? Do you think something like global presence needs a rework, so to speak, kind of like they're doing with Bribe, they're doing with imposing presence? Do you think the maps need to change, or do you think globals need to change?
Well, I guess that I would argue whether or not there's even a true problem. I mean, I think it gives some extra flavor to the game, but you're right, we're seeing the same heroes over and over again. So if they're not going to introduce more with that, then I probably think it's more looking at global than the maps. Because, I mean, I think there's a lot of variety in the maps and a lot of different play styles, but being able to be everywhere...
Right. There's no real map solution
advantage
to that, right? Like, it's like, well,
maybe there's something inventive we haven't thought of.
yeah, like I was thinking, like, maybe there's a electric wall that spawns sometimes, and if you run into it, you take a bunch of damage or something, and I don't know. Okay, just wanted to get your 2 cents on that. So Blackheart's Bay, you want a good solo laner. Zool considered pretty godlike on this map.
Yeah, but Zool's not considered godlike for the solo lane. He's
Right,
considered
that's
godlike
true.
for the double soak.
Double soak, right.
So dumb.
Yeah. I mean, why not both, right? Soft tacos, hard tacos. Like, I mean, you could solo double soak, right? That's the whole point.
No, well, actually, if you have Zool, you don't need a solo laner because everyone else can go bot.
Right, you can just rush bot.
You can have 1-4. Zool can stay top and deal with both lanes the entire game, and everyone else can just push bot and get a keep by like the 5-minute mark.
Yeah, I don't want to be too toxic or salty, but F this map. I'm sorry. Just F this map. Like, put it in the grave with Haunted Mines and fix it.
I will say it has some great character though.
It does.
I agree. I think that the map itself has a lot of issues.
It's a beautiful map. One
It's
thing
fun.
One thing I wish they had done, and I suggested this right when the game came out, I was like, yo, how are you having a bone golem as the boss on this map? Why don't you make a cool kraken that comes out of the water up there? Come on.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
You have like a little bit of a dock, and the Kraken like literally rises out of the water.
Climbs out, yeah. That's part of the rework, Blizz. That one's for free.
I always liked it because it's modeled after Booty Bay in World of Warcraft.
Right. Yeah. It's a cool map. Is there anything on Blackheart's Bay that you want to emphasize as far as draft picks that we didn't already talk about on maybe another map?
I want to say it again because this is the thing that peeves me the most. You need someone who can efficiently solo camps.
Right.
Illidan, Thrall. If you're good at Gazlo, just pick Gazlo on this map. I don't care. Just so long as you can efficiently do camps.
Greymane can do it.
Greymane can actually efficiently kill camps, even though he has no self-sustain, but he has to hearth after each one. But he does them so much faster than everyone else
fast, yeah.
that it works out in terms of having roughly the same amount of time spent.
Sonya do a decent job.
Sonya, sure.
Sonya, the new bribe talents are going to be done on this map. I've actually tested it for one game, and it's dumb. It's pretty. Falstad's even better on this map than he is now.
Falstad, oh man, I am enjoying him on just Tune of the Mountain right now. He's my favorite hero.
Butcher can efficiently do camps.
Yes.
Illidan can efficiently do camps. Zagara can efficiently do camps.
So this is truly a PvE map. It's a map where... Now, tell me if this is an exaggeration. To me, what I always say about this map is the less you fight, the better.
Yes.
Yeah, which
That's
is
absolutely true. I should say that about all maps, but
well, yeah, but I mean,
Well,
even with an advantage, you're like still just turning coins. Like even if you have a talent lead up, you're like, we can kill them if they're turning in coins, but otherwise we should probably just turn in coins.
Yeah, turn in coins, do your camps.
Yeah.
If there are no camps left on the map, if you're ahead of talent tier and there are no camps left on the map, including boss, and you already turned in, you don't have enough for another turn, and you're just waiting for the chest to come up, then you can consider pushing.
Then you consider a push, right? That's not Heroes of the Storm, right? Like that's like the opposite of why the game's awesome in a lot of ways to me.
But it is the best strategy on the map.
Oh yes, it is absolutely. But I think it kind of the way the map's meta evolved is kind of against the design philosophy of the game it's in, which is.
I mean, that might be true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was one of the earliest maps.
Yeah,
The game has evolved significantly.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm talking about Blackheart's Bay, and I'm ready to move on from it.
It's just one of those things where it was like, Zool was never intended.
You know what they could do? I thought of 2 changes that I think would make the map pretty interesting, actually.
What's that?
One of them is, it only matters who turns in the last coin.
Oh.
So if one
like a collective bank.
Yeah, if one team turns in 9 coins and then you turn in 1,
it's
you
yours.
Get that turn in.
Actually, that's really good. That would make you fight each other.
It forces you to hold coins until you have enough for a turn in, and it forces you to turn in all at once. So there's no safety of holding coins or depositing coins in advance.
Mm-hmm.
And it would slightly change the team fighting dynamics on the map. I think
it would. That's a simple solution that might be very helpful.
I'm curious if for some skill levels that would make the map even less fun, though, because if you're forced to hold them,
it would,
and you get destroyed, you lose your,
Yeah.
It absolutely would make it less fun at some skill levels, but I think it would make the map better, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, fair enough. Okay. You said you had another idea. What was it?
Oh, my other idea is not as good.
Okay.
But it's make 2 turn-in points and put them on opposite sides of the map. So if you ever want to turn in, you have to go to the enemy team side of the map.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like the first idea more. Yeah.
That's good.
Agreed.
That was honest.
Agreed. All right.
But who made you arbiter of today?
I'm just expressing an opinion, Ryan. And the opinion was I like the shared bank.
Will you write this down in chat? I don't know.
Please don't report me to Blizzard for being toxic. All right, so Dragonshire.
My favorite map.
This is a classic. A lot of people still love this map. There's one old map that's still more beloved, but a lot of people like this map. Still fun to play. Is this is Falstad King here, CavalierGuest, or is there something else? Okay.
He is. It's Zagara, because Brutal Soul laner in the top lane is just something that can't be dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
I think in high level play, the Falstad with the global, because post 20, once he has Epic Mount, you actually just can't get the Dragon Knight unless you split. And if they're alive as 5 and you're alive as 5 and you're split and they're not and you don't know for sure because Falstad,
right?
Then you can't ever cap the Dragon Knight. You can never get the objective.
Yeah, I've dealt with it and I'm not a fan.
Well, hey, you've been on the good side of it.
I have. I mean, I have. No question.
Vikings are actually similarly annoying.
Right.
There's 2 pocket picks on this map that I think people don't respect enough. Actually, one of them is Rexar.
Right.
Because holding the top shrine and soaking the lane is incredibly valuable, and Rexar is one of the few heroes that can actually hold the shrine basically forever, because all he has to do is send Misha there and keep healing Misha, and it's hard to kill Misha.
She is. She's very tough.
Very
She's a tough burr. Yeah.
And he can continue to push the lane out, which denies vision, because the lane keeps getting pushed to the towers.
Right.
He actually he beat old Zag in lane when played at a very high level. I don't know if he beats new Zag in lane.
It's a tall order, but maybe.
Yeah. But if the enemy team doesn't have Zag, then suddenly Rexar is probably, I think, the best solo laner left, because he beats everyone else but Zag.
All right, Ryan, I'm practicing Rexar for Dragonshire. Get ready. We'll have Falstad Rexar.
Sounds good.
And the other one is Lili.
Lili, okay.
Yeah, Bruiser Lili.
Tell us why.
Because Bruiser Lili is an excellent duelist.
Yes, she kills a lot of heroes. It's weird.
Yeah, Bruiser Lili is actually one of the best duelists in the entire game. It sounds so weird to say that, but it's actually true. Mm-hmm. And dueling is incredibly important on Dragonshire because you're rarely together as a team. Even if you're doing a strong 4-man rotation at the start of the game, if one team's controlling the bot shrine, you need to, or if you're controlling the bot shrine and the enemy team's trying to invade it, you need one person to go get mid soak, right? So now you're split. You're a 1-1-3, whether you wanted to be or not. Sometimes you have people who are very efficient doing camps, and they often do a camp real quick, and then you're in like a 1-1-2 situation or a 1-2-1. And basically, the way the map works when you play it correctly, even if you have strong rotations, you end up in a lot of scenarios where you're 1v1, 2v2, 1v2, 2v1, whatever.
Right.
And Lily excels in situations like that where the low cooldown on her relatively high heal allows her to sustain through fights. She can mitigate and do a lot of damage with her blind. And then suddenly, once you get low, you get Water Dragon and you're dead because you can't disengage from the Lily.
Right. I mean, makes sense to me. I mean, it's a very bizarre thing, but it applies. I have a pocket pick on this map that I think is good. And I think he is equally as potent to Falstad, and I think people don't use him enough on this map, and his name is Dahaka.
Yeah.
I think Dahaka is great on this map. Not just because of the global presence on top and bottom, but because the middle triangle bush section near the statue is such a crucial area of control that he can establish a pretty strong dominion over just because of his flight, or not his flight, his burrow. Whereas Falstad, if he flies middle, that's where he's going, right, for a while, which is still true of Dahaka, but once Falstad's in the middle, if it's 2 versus 1 or something, he's like, I gotta go, whereas Dahaka can push people out of that very important part of the map. So I think Dahaka is good on this map.
Yeah, Dahaka, especially Apex Predator, you can actually,
yes,
the way the timing works out, you can actually get the objective entirely by yourself within 30 seconds.
Yeah,
it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's a good time. So, if you're one of those players that doesn't like to play the usual I'm Falstad again, and you want to play something a little different, maybe a little Lily, maybe a little Dahaka, maybe some Lost Vikings, there's some good options on this map that are still very strong.
Yeah.
Which is why it's a cool map, I guess. It's a good thing. What else is there to say about Dragonshire? What kind of tank do you want on Dragonshire?
So you can, if you're doing a strong 4-man rotation, you definitely want someone who can zone for the rotation, particularly in the Triangle of Death, which is the Triangle of Bush is just between mid and bot lanes, because it denies so much vision and it's so easy to see the rotation if someone's waiting defensively in it. So you want something like has an escape. You want a Muradin, you want an ETC, you want a Tyrael. Or you can go a different direction and actually draft a wave clear tank like Johanna or even Chen or Leoric.
Okay.
Leoric especially, again, because Dragon Knight, the % damage thing works on him.
Right.
And by constantly having a hero who can, who's the tank, who can safely rotate to a lane and clear it very quickly or push out the lane very aggressively because they do have that tankiness, you end up in a scenario where the enemy team feels a lot of pressure purely because of the lanes, and you always have the vision of who's going to and from shrines if your lanes are pushed out, and they don't have that vision. They don't know who's waiting for them at the shrines. Right.
What would be really good on this map is a wave clearing tank that had global presence. Oh wait.
Yeah.
It's Dahaka. Okay, sorry. I'm done. I'm done harping on Dahaka. All right. What else do you have to say about Dragonshire? What do you think are some strong... Obviously, anything that's strong on the map would make a good ban. Are there any other things to prioritize on Dragonshire?
Rotational ganks matter a lot because of the fact that it will guarantee secure your shrine, especially in the top lane. So heroes that are good at rotationally killing people, the 2 stealthies in particular, Zeratul and Nova, are both really, really strong on Dragonshire when played correctly. I play on the Korean ladder sometime, where Nova is a standard pick on every map.
I'm never playing on the Korean server ever.
And Nova is actually first ban material on Dragonshire.
Okay,
on the Korean hero league ladder.
Can you explain that to me? Because that's baffling to me.
Dead people can't cap shrines.
Okay.
So even though Nova lacks wave clear, she's invisible. So her ability to rotate to a lane and suddenly you're in a 2v1 that you didn't expect, you lose that 2v1. At least you should, especially if you're contesting the shrine directly and you don't have a mobility option. And then you're dead, so you miss soak because you're dead. You put a lot of pressure on the solo laner whenever there's a stealthy on the map. And after that, she rotates down. And she's not very good in team fights. Zeratul Carniv
she's not.
but not being good in team fights makes you an excellent Dragon Knight driver.
Oh, yeah, fair
Because
point.
you're not sacrificing anything to take the Dragon Knight.
Sure, and she can kind of sneak in there too to cap it.
Exactly.
Despite all that, nope, I don't buy, I don't buy it. Korea, I know you're Korea, but I don't accept it. Sorry. I'm sure you're.
She's gonna be even.
The heart of the nation weeps
after she gets bribed at level 4.
That's true, and
really didn't help.
I've been watching some of her new bride mechanic with the 50% spawn. It's a very interesting mechanic. I think it's pretty neat. Okay, so Dragonshire, we have exactly one map left to talk about, and that is the Cursed Hollow, home of the Raven Lord. A fan favorite, one of my favorites. Everybody loves this map. Unique too, and yet it's very old. What kind of things are strongest on Cursed Hollow with its 2 boss map setup?
So, a lot of people underestimate how important bosses are in Cursed Hollow.
Mm-hmm.
Not just because there are 2 of them, but because they often end up being the win condition of the map. And if a hero has an ability that allows them to steal a boss or guarantee a boss, they're a priority on Cursed Hollow.
Okay. Examples?
The 2 biggest examples are Devouring Maw on Zagara.
Sure.
Because if you position it perfectly, there's only room for one person to stand on the capture point. And that means one person on your team jumps in there, usually the tank.
ETC, yeah.
Yeah, you guarantee the boss, you're fine. And the other one is Tyrael with Holy Ground.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And there's some others, but they're more difficult to execute, and they have more counterplay. For instance, at a high level, Falstad.
Zeratul.
Zeratul doesn't steal it with DP anymore. They fixed that. But Leyline Seal on
but
does.
You can put it on part of it, though, right? Like, and try and...
You could.
Yeah.
You could. But if your
that's
ally
tough,
steps close too far... Like,
yeah, that's tough. Yeah, you're right.
The reason Falstad isn't... super good at high level plays because you can see the gust coming, and a good support will always be able to cleanse someone who's standing on the point.
Right.
And then they don't leave the point.
Or sanked it, or whatever.
Yeah, or sanked. Yeah, that's the one.
But Holy Ground and Maw and Barrel on Chen always work.
Barrel on Chen. I hadn't thought of that. Okay.
Yeah, Chen can knock 3 people off the point, not 4. So if you have 4 people all trying to get on the point from different angles, Chen can't steal the boss. But if you have only 3, he can always steal the boss.
This has happened to us a couple times, Danny. A Chen and a Barrel has come in and taken it from us. It's been pretty... I mean, it's a terrible way for that to happen, but it's pretty cool.
Maybe happened to you. That's never happened to me.
Yeah, you must have already been dead.
Yeah, I was probably dead.
So.
Okay.
There's some other ones that are less consistent, like Wave of Force on Li Ming, as long as someone else is on the point. Particularly at post 20 if she picks up Repulsion.
Right.
It's a really good example. Horrify on Gul'dan. I actually had a boss steal on Cursed Hollow with Horrify once. It was pretty rewarding.
I've done that too, and it feels good.
It does. It feels so good.
What do you think? Do you think a hero like Alarak could do something like that? Maybe a nice big telekinesis.
He can force one person off the point, right? With telekinesis.
Doesn't it hit? It doesn't hit multiple targets.
I
think it does.
I've actually played him.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen it hit one target, but that might have been because they weren't grouped enough.
Yeah, I think it does.
Okay, in that case, that might be big enough.
Yeah, and that'd be a sweet play. So
that would.
It's always nice.
ETC with the increased knockback at 7 on loudspeakers can actually knock people completely off the point.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can knock them completely off the point and then CC them, they can't get back on.
Right.
So there's lots of ones that aren't quite as good as the big, but there's options.
Emerald Wind. Vincer Sojourn brings up a nice point there. Emerald Wind, yeah.
Which is better than it was. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Emerald Wind was actually never a bad heroic. It was just that you needed the mobility from Blinkiel to live when your team wasn't gonna let you live, because positioning is so important on Brightwing.
Right.
I know Huge, who plays more Brightwing than anyone I know personally, has always preferred Emerald Wind. He just couldn't find situations where he could take it in here, but he always thought it was the better heroic.
Right. Interesting. So do you think the boss steal potential is so powerful on this map that you would first pick heroes like that over strong assassins? Okay.
100%.
Wow. Cool.
If you, assuming the game is even and you're just trading tributes, eventually it's going to come to a point where you're going to be in a late game boss fight, and that late game boss fight is going to determine the game. If it's an uneven game and you're just winning all the tributes, then it doesn't matter.
Right.
But in an even game, the map almost always comes down to who wins the most important boss fight. And if you have stealing
It does.
ability,
It's
you
true.
you've just won the game.
So then your number one pick on this map would be Zagara.
Or Tyrael, yes.
Or Tyrael. Okay. Yeah.
I really do, what I liked about this map though is that the bosses are so important, right? I mean, it's not just the objective, which I think is
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
Yeah.
There's more than one of them, and there's a lot of play and counterplay, and how many times in Hero League, somebody makes a bad choice.
Mhm.
So
Oh, I like it too. I think it's really cool. There are a lot of maps where the boss is kind of negligible. Blackheart's Bay. It's like
yeah, I was gonna say
it's like, oh, they got the boss.
perfect example.
Yeah, oh no, yeah. So I think that's cool too. I think maybe they should emphasize more map control style things like that affect the outcome of the game in a style of a boss. That'd be cool.
Well, to some degree, Bratz's Holdout does that, right?
It does. Yeah, I think so. Speaking of Brax's Holdout, did you have anything else you wanted to say about Cursed Hollow Cavalier?
There's a question from chat. What about prioritizing heroes that can get vision of the bosses?
Okay, sure.
From Slam Adams. I think that's a really good idea. I think vision is underestimated in the majority of the HOTS community. Vision is absolutely critical. One of the reasons that I first wrote my Art of the Tank guide was because tanks are responsible for essentially being mobile wards and giving vision. Right? We don't have a lot of vision granting utility in the game, and we don't have the ability to grant vision just by buying something. Right? It comes down to individual hero abilities. So Abathur mines are obviously absolutely insane on this map. Tyrande owls are not only good for checking bosses, but they're good for interrupting tributes. So there's that added utility.
Abathur mines not only for vision around the bosses, but also slowing rotations during those key tributes. I mean,
yes,
right.
Yeah, so
which is actually going to be even more impactful after the mount nerf.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if anyone thought about that yet, but I tested it, and it's brutal. It feels real bad.
I'm gonna get salty, like for sure. I'm gonna get mad, like because
what else is new then?
Yeah. I've never been mad in my life. I don't know what you're talking about. The other so based on that, another reason Zagara is incredible on Cursed Hollow, she has vision. She can steal the boss, and she has vision. So
she has poke for the tributes. So you can just bile drop, and then you have roaches. So I mean, those are the three most valuable things on Cursed Hollow: vision, poke, and boss fight strengths. And Zagara has all three of them.
Right. So good hero.
We often see her first ban on most maps, and I think it's even more important than this one.
I've been first banning Falstad on this map, but maybe I should reevaluate that. Yeah. Okay. So that's all the maps. We got a lot of knowledge bombs dropped on us. Real quick, Brax's Holdout is amazing and fun, and I like it. What kind of things do you think, from your limited experience, are going to be emphasized on Brax's Holdout? I know we talked about it a little before, but
so I like Brax's. It's kind of a mixture of I said before. It's kind of a mixture of Dragonshire and Haunted Mines. The interesting thing about Brax's is that if you draft good dueling heroes, good team fight compositions, then you can often win the objective. And if you win the objective really hard, it's absolutely terrifying. But if the enemy team has a lot of wave clear, you can actually deny a lot of the value. I was on a team with a Johanna who took a turn of retaliation, a Zul, and a Kel'Thas. And it was like a 100-0 Zerg wave, and we just cleared it.
Yeah.
It got a wall.
Yeah, I've done.
And it was like, oh, well, that wasn't very scary after all. And it's an interesting dynamic. Do you draft heroes that are specifically good at dueling on the point and try and get maximum value from the point, or you just draft so much wave clear that it doesn't matter if your opponent gets the objective because you can just clear it?
Right.
And then they're constantly under this issue of their lanes are getting pushed in because your wave clear is better.
So what we're saying is Sylvanas is pretty good on this map.
Yeah.
And Zul. I think Zul is fantastic.
But Vincer Sojourn brings up another good point. Rexar could be very strong on this map.
For the exact same reason he's strong on Dragonshire, which is he can hold the point and be super annoying and still clear the way.
Yeah, and just not have to be there. Yeah. One thing I did want to, I'd been playing around with, and I haven't checked it yet, but I meant to tonight. What level is Medivh's talent to make the portal really long, like make it huge range?
The range is 13, but 13. You almost always go for the reduced cooldown.
Right. I'm thinking on this map, because the 2 points really aren't that far from each other. you could probably portal pretty close to the other control point. And I don't know if it'll be a straight shot. It would be a straight shot for Medivh, obviously, because he can fly. But that's something I kind of wanted to test. I think it might have potential.
I don't think the range is big enough to go from point to point, but for Medivh, you could easily fly over the wall and then portal over the other wall, because there's the boss pit in between them.
Yeah. I wasn't sure how big its range is. I thought it might be able to get close, but you're probably right. It might not be quite enough.
His range is about 4/5 of a screen without the talent.
Okay.
It's more than a screen with the talent.
Right.
But not a lot more.
And that's what I'm thinking. Like, I'm picturing myself looking around the map, and I think it's close. You're probably right, though. That's just was my...
That's worth testing.
That's I'm gonna test it. Ryan, I have some bad news for you.
What's that?
I think I'm on a Medivh kick.
Oh God!
Wow. I think he's really fun, and I'm sorry.
It's okay. Maybe when you get good, I'll forgive you.
Whoa! Holy crap! This guy.
Shots fired.
This guy's savage. You know that? This guy's brutal.
Well, when I play heroes like Falstad, and you play heroes like Medivh, or what was the other one you were playing?
I love Gul'dan.
Gul'dan.
I love Gul'dan.
Gul'dan.
It's called fun, Ryan. You should try it.
As long as you can hit your E, Gul'dan's a good hero.
I'm good at hitting my E. I'm an E master. Mm-hmm. Don't you laugh.
Whatever, I won't publicly humiliate you.
You know what? We're going to play after the show, and I'll publicly humiliate myself. So
that's great.
So I don't need you.
Thank you. Wow. Yeah. That's savage, but...
Yeah. I meant I don't need you to humiliate me.
Oh, okay.
Please don't be mad at me.
Before we're done talking about Brat's Holdout, I just want to say having a StarCraft map is freaking awesome.
Yes. And StarCraft.
And I love everything about it, including those ravens that shoot the
seeker missiles.
The seeker missiles.
Yes.
That do splash damage.
So cool.
Oh my gosh. Those things, I don't know what little tweak they did, but they clear waves so nicely. And if you leave that raven up, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you got to kill that raven. Just like in StarCraft.
That's right.
You got to kill that raven.
Yeah, I think it's super cool, and I think the boss mechanic is something different that we haven't seen before, right? With the line damage.
Yeah, he's a very cool boss.
And he attacks heroes. He's like the Punisher.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
Yeah,
he's really good at he's not so good against buildings.
He's scary. Yeah.
Real damage.
Yeah, he's a scary dude. What is he? He's the I can't remember the name of him now.
He's an archangel. He's a landed archangel.
No, it's some Norse name. It's like the Thor, the Odin, but it's something else.
No, it's a Viking. It's one of the upgraded Vikings.
Yeah, but it has a name. It has a specific name. It's not Archangel.
It's Archangel. They're archangels. It's a model of Viking.
Hold on. Braxis Holdout. Overview. Alright, it's not on here. I'll take your word for it, CavalierGuest. I thought it was something else.
I think he's right. So.
Well, he seems to be right about a lot of things, and I seem to be wrong about most things, so I'll take it. Alright. So this was an incredibly informative episode. I think the show was a lot better for having you here. Me and Ryan, we're smart guys, but you had the fun facts and a lot of really good insights. So we appreciate you coming on the show a lot. Tell us about where people can find you, where people can read your awesome guides, all that stuff.
So I stream regularly Monday through Friday on Twitch, just sort of testing things, playing around, getting all this knowledge a little bit at a time. Twitch.tv/CavalierGuest. And then on Saturdays, I actually run Educational Scrims, which is a viewer thing. So myself and another streamer are captains/shot callers for viewer teams, and people are allowed to come to participate. And we just basically take you through what it's like to play Heroes of the Storm as a team game with comms.
Right.
And sometimes we produce professional drafts. Some of our captains are Handlebars, who's the coach for Nile Esports. Yuge did it once, who's now, of course, the coach for GFE. Zugrug occasionally drops by and does it. Sray will be doing it after PAX is over.
Okay,
who's,
nice.
Of course, yeah. So we have lots of pro players. It's a really fun way to interact with them and get their insights on things. That happens every Saturday. We're actually going to have a double session this Saturday, I think, because there's so many people who have been asking for an evening session as well as an afternoon one.
Okay.
So there's going to be quite a lot.
I was not aware that existed. I would totally watch that. one of the best feelings I've ever had in Heroes of the Storm, besides playing Team League, because it's just this is a team game, was when I was on Gillyweed's show, Eye on the Storm, back when she used to do that, and I was on the opposing team, and we had Dreadnought shot calling, and there's nothing like having a good shot caller, man. It just makes the game so enjoyable.
There really isn't. It's such a good feeling.
It's the biggest easy mode button.
It is. I'm just like, you tell me what to do and we win, and it's great. It's just fantastic.
I actually did a video on this today. I was analyzing a 2-arc versus Team Blaze game from the qualifiers, and I was like, if you have a good shot caller, everyone else on your team only needs to be good mechanically.
Yeah. Right?
Because they don't need to think about the strategy. They just need to do what they're told. But if you have a team that's all mechanical players and doesn't have a shot caller, team's not going to be in for good decision making, especially in the late game.
Right.
And they actually end up throwing the game late game because of very poor decision.
Because of decision making, yeah.
So it's incredibly liberating to have one person who's just understanding the strategy, thinking about where everyone is on the map, and calling these things out, and you're just doing what they tell you to do. And all you have to think about is your role.
It's
whatever
the best.
Your hero does.
Oh man, it's the best. So that sounds actually a little bit like what we're starting to try to do. I don't know. It sounds like the kind of thing that could actually work together. We do what's called Monday Night Team League. Just so you guys know about us, I think I see a lot of new names here. We're a fan site, but we have this show, which is near and dear to us and very, very cool. Been a great experience for us. And we have Monday Night Team League starting, which we've only done. So let me tell you a funny story about Monday Night Team League.
Okay.
The day I debuted Monday Night Team League, I was like, 8 p.m. on Monday, we're going to do it. The minute, 8 o'clock on the dot, the minute I started the show, the PTR finally goes up. And everyone's like, peace out, and it didn't work out. But
it's okay, we still had fun.
We did have fun. We still played Team League, so whatever. So Team League, Monday Night Team League is supposed to be a resource for people to gather and join us for Team League games, win prizes by queuing into us, and basically get more experience in coordinated, voice-commed Team League type play, because that's where Heroes of the Storm is by far the most fun. It's all about just cycling people into Team League, grouping people together to make their own teams, things like that. So you guys can come on Monday. There's been a link being spammed by Moobot in our chat all night where you can sign up. We track your points, and at the end of our season or whatever, we'll give out prizes based on the points. They're going to be good, and definitely check it out. Cavalier, is there anything else you'd like to say before we go?
No, I just want to say that I had a really great time. I'm glad you guys invited me on the show. Talking about drafts, talking about maps is near and dear to my heart. So it was fun to do it for an hour and a half somehow. And I actually still have things I could say, but it's a lot of fun. So thank you guys a lot.
Yeah, well, thank you, man. Thank you. So what we're going to do now, if you're down, Ryan, you want to play a little Hero League, watch me feed.